Good afternoon, Texans. Today is September 20th, 2013. I'm Trevor Peele alongside Leann, Flores, and you are tuning into the Texan Sports Minute. Today we have some big topics for you. Some of these include Texan football, Texan volleyball, college football, Andy Reid returning to Philadelphia, and Monday Night Football.
First thing on the agenda for today is Tarleton football. With the Texans upsetting the number 13 Midwestern State, do you think they can carry this win to defeat San Angelo?
Well, just like last season, beating Midwestern was a huge upset. The bad side, it turned out to be a mediocre season for the Texans. Watching that game, though, the Texans really looked strong. They weren't throwing the screen passes. They were really getting out there and running the ball. The offensive line looked great. And so when it comes to San Angelo, you got to think, though, San Angelo is a tough team. What we have to do is utilize both our quarterbacks like we did last game. Both senior quarterbacks did a great job. I think the Rams will put up a test for the Texans. The Rams are looking to break an 11-game winning streak that the Texans started back in 2001. The Texans won last season 54-37. The hardest thing for the Texans will be if they can stop the running game of the Rams. Right now, they're ranked 9th in the Division II football. They have the top two rushers in the LSE, Kyle Washington and Jeremy Calhoun. Both have had 100-yard rushing games this season. Calhoun is a former player of Bob Stoops over in Oklahoma. He played 3 years there before transferring to San Angelo. Calhoun even had his 23-yard run against Black Hill State, the #1 Sports Center top play until Peyton Manning took over with his 7 touchdowns. So I think it'll be a great battle, but I look for the Texans to bring home another victory and keep their streak intact. The game is at 7 p.m. tomorrow in San Angelo.
After an exciting last weekend of college football, what do you think we can look forward to this weekend?
For college football, I think that it'll be a tough game. I think that there's nothing really exciting going on in this game. There's only one top 25 matchup, and that's going to be between number 23 Arizona State and number 5 Stanford. Stanford looks very vulnerable. I think that they can be beat easily. I don't think it'll be a problem at all for them. I think that it's just going to be just like last year whenever they had the Pac-12 championship when the time ran out for Stanford and there was a big fit going on and they didn't know what was happening. But, Arizona State took away that bowl win, and it was great for them. Also, I don't think that any top teams are going to lose. Alabama's playing Colorado State. Texas A&M is playing, coming to Fort Worth to play SMU. And the one game that I think that there can be a big upset comes out of Louisiana. Again, Louisiana Monroe, I think that the Warhawks with Colton Browning being the quarterback, last year they defeated number 8 Arkansas, which was one of the biggest upsets in college football. But Arkansas also turned out just to be mediocre. They were horrible last year. They fired their head coach. But you need to watch that game because I believe that Baylor is vulnerable against ULM.
The Texans competed the last tournament of the year to begin conference play tonight. How's it looking for the Texans?
Well, with the current record of 5-4, the Texans split the tournament in Colorado Mines. The 2 losses came from number 19 Colorado Mines and the other at number 6 Washburn in a 5-set heartbreaker. But there are some great accolades that came from the tournament. Stacey Murrah was named co-offensive player and Emily Klein was co-defensive player of the week. Murrah had 80 kills in the tournament, nearly doubling the closest person to her at 41. She hit an average of 247 and had the most points for the Texans at 87. Klein on the defensive side had 117 digs, tying her career high on Friday with 34. She even led the team with aces throughout the week at 6. The Texans have 2 home games today and tomorrow. Tonight they play Cameron at 6 p.m. and tomorrow against Midwestern at 2 p.m., both home conference games.
It took 15 months for this story to unfold, and it seems as if Chris Anderson of the Miami Heat got catfished.
Yeah, it was, last year there was a big ordeal that came out when Chris Anderson was in the playoffs against the Lakers when he was playing for the Denver Nuggets. There was a big ordeal that happened that he started getting pushed aside. There were some charges filed against him saying he was talking to an underage girl. Well, it turns out that a lady from Canada was posing to be a lady from California. And so when she posed to be a person from California talking to Chris Anderson, there was kind of some conflict right there because electronic conversations somebody got a hold of, and so they started looking at those. Well, it turns out that it was just all her. It was a hoax and everything. There was no charges filed against Chris Anderson. Everything got dropped. But it was hard because, he's a 34-year-old player that just got released by the Nuggets. There was no resolution of the case in sight, and so you just seen his NBA career go down until the Miami Heat last January offered him a 10-day contract. He did a great job. It turned out that they offered him till the rest of the season. He turned out to be a great asset. to the championship team, averaging 6.7 points, 81% shooting. And so he was big off the bench for the Miami Heat. And so also this year he had a bunch of offers come in to go to sign to other teams. He declined those to stay with Miami, possibly for another championship. And he stayed for less money, which is $2.8 million. I don't really think that's less money.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite a bit to me.
When a team drafts a player in the first round, they usually look for that player to be their possible franchise player or to help with the rebuilding process. But that doesn't seem like the story for the Cleveland Browns.
No. Back in 2011, the Cleveland Browns had the 3rd overall pick. They took Trent Richardson, who was an outstanding standout at Alabama. He was great. But here they are. Come out Wednesday, he gets traded. And not only that, is the way you find out you get traded, he got a phone call from a buddy that told him to turn on the radio, and when he did, that's how he found the news. And it reminded me of Carson Palmer, or not Carson Palmer, but it reminded me of the Oakland Raiders with Jason Campbell. Whenever he broke his leg and was in the hospital bed, he seen on ESPN that the Oakland Raiders signed Carson Palmer. He didn't even know. No one gave him a phone call. With the 3rd overall pick, that's crazy. But he is going to Indianapolis to play with the Colts. The Colts gave away a first-round pick for next year, which gives the Browns 10 overall picks next year, which is a lot. They got 7 in the first 4 rounds. And so I'm looking at Trent Richardson and Andrew Luck, who was the top draft prospect last year, went number 1 overall. This is the first time since the merger that you have 2 players that were drafted in top 3 overall to play with each other. And so I think it's going to be exciting. I think that it's great because Trent Richardson last year, with 2 broken ribs, rushed for 905 yards. And that was with 2 broken ribs and a horrible offensive line. This year he has a good offensive line. He has Andrew Luck, who's an outstanding passer. So I believe that they can really utilize both of them and have a good running game and a passing game. So I would really watch out for the Colts this year now.
Andy Reid was back in Philadelphia, but for the first time in 14 seasons as the opposing team. Only this time, he left the stadium on a good note.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 14 seasons. Andy Reid finally went back to Philadelphia. As the opposing person, it was weird seeing him in all that red. I'm used to seeing him in the Eagles cap. I'm used to seeing him yelling at Michael Vick and LaShawn McCoy. But also, it was odd because at the same time of his return, his former quarterback, Donovan McNabb, was having his number retired at halftime, which I just thought, what are the coincidences of that happening? But yes, there was no criticism after the game. There was no firing. There was no one after his head after the game because he did a great job. He actually defeated the Eagles last night, 26-16, and not a lot of people seen that coming. When I seen Andy Reid going back, it's the same thing. The Eagles have not changed, it seems like. It seems like they're still getting whooped on their field, but Andy Reid doesn't have to be a part of it. He has Alex Smith, who Alex Smith right now is the starting quarterback, is 24-5-1. He has the best winning percentage in the NFL as a starting quarterback. And not to mention, he did get traded last year from the 49ers. They decided to keep Kaepernick. So they sent out Alex Smith. So Alex Smith is now a Chief, and they're 3-0, and they have more wins than they had all season last year. They went 2-14. So right now, Andy Reid is putting together something special in Kansas.
After losing last weekend by 1 point to the Kansas City Chiefs, how do you think the Cowboys will match up against the St. Louis Rams?
Well, the St. Louis Rams and the Cowboys both are sitting at 1-1. Both of them are looking, needing a good win. They both really do need a win. And I will say that last week, the problems are going to come with the Cowboys if they can't stop the defensive ends and Chris Long and Robert Quinn on the defensive end side for the Rams, because last week they made Dontari Poe look like an all-pro for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had 2 sacks, getting to Romo easily, bumping up his average to 3.5 a game, and Dontari Poe is not an all-pro. But they made him look like a great person out there, but it's going to be hard for the Cowboys. It's going to be tough. I don't see a cornerback on the Rams side that can really hold Des Bryant, so I'll look for him to be the main focus of that defense. But like I said, they have to give Romo time in the pocket. Otherwise, Chris Long or Robert Quinn are going to get there and take him down for the sack. And then also DeMarco Murray. I think that he needs to have a huge game this week. His rookie year in 2011, he broke out for 253 yards against the Rams. I think that they're really going to need this, and they're really going to need some guys on that defensive end to step up to be able to stop Trayvon Austin, rookie wide receiver, who's having an outstanding season already. And so that's going to be some problems for the Cowboys. My prediction on that, I believe that the Cowboys will win this one by at least 7. Not my prediction last week because I predicted them to beat the Chiefs and they lost by 1. And so we'll see how this game turns out.
We have an AFC West game on Monday night. the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders. Most would say that Denver will win, but win without a doubt. What do you think?
It's hard for me to say. Oakland Raiders is my favorite team. Mm-hmm. Oakland Raiders, I've been an Oakland Raider fan since '98, and so they excite me a lot. But, anyone will say that this game's without a doubt over because Peyton Manning's going to come out and pass all over that defense. But you got to check this out. The Oakland Raiders have 12 players on their team on one-year contracts, and that's Charles Woodson and Tracy Porter. Charles Woodson is a 7-time All-Pro. I mean, he's been in the Pro Bowl. He's great. But, these one-year contracts on the defensive side, it pushes those players because they know they don't have a contract for next year. They know that they're working for something, that it counts right now. But you got to look at the numbers as well. The Oakland Raiders, who would have thought, even though it's week 3, but still, who would have thought they're number 1 in rushing yards at 198.5 yards a game? And then also, who would have known that their defense is 5th in the league right now and stopping the pass. Mm-hmm. And so 2 of those things are going to be great against Denver. But then on the Denver side, you got Peyton Manning, who's averaging 395 yards a game. And then rushing, they're keeping their opponents down to 40.5, and they're 5th in the league in that. And so you got some numbers that are going back and forth. And even though it's Peyton Manning and, of course, the Oakland Raiders, who everyone says the pushover team, they're supposed to go winless this season, but they're already sitting at 1-1. I think that this team has a great chance of stopping them. I think that it's going to be an electric game. But, of course, I hate to say it, but I think that Peyton Manning will pull away another win. And it is a division game for them. Both the teams are fighting hard, but I think that Peyton Manning will pull away with it.
Well, that's all we have for today. I'm Leann Flores, and he's Trevor Peele. Hope you enjoyed it, Texans.
This has been a product of Texan News Service. You can follow us at Texan News Sports. Tweet us some of your topics and ideas for the show, and we'd be glad to put them on there. If you don't have time for sports this weekend, that's okay. You can tune in Monday for the Texan Sports Minute as I run down through all the exciting things that happened this weekend. I want to say special thanks to Alyssa Nguyen for producing today. Have a wonderful day, Tarleton Texans.